Hi, I'm Sandy Anderson, and this is my case study for EDL 852. To summarize the case and establish the facts, the Lightville Community School District finds themselves divided on ways to address the space inadequacy of their rapidly growing school district. Guidance of an architectural firm hired by the superintendent came up with 3 suggestions: building an addition at the high school and moving 6th grade up, building additions at both buildings, or building a new middle school for grades 6 through 8. Community division occurred from the 3 different areas: those that wanted 0 additional debt but did not have a solution, those that wanted minimal additional debt through the use of additions, and those that supported the construction of a new facility to address long-term problems. Issues were publicly debated for 4 months. The board approved the construction of the new facility, and stakeholders voted in favor of the new facility 53 to 47%. The new middle school would be built within 18 months, and the principal would be hired 12 months prior to the opening to have input on staffing and curriculum choices. A selection committee comprised of 4 parents, 4 teachers, 2 administrators, the superintendent, and the school board selected Susan Potter. Susan's experience was within a suburban middle school, and she was hesitant due to the predominantly rural community. Susan accepted the position, embracing the challenge of opening a new middle school. The superintendent tasked Susan with making staff decisions, establishing and organizing school programs, and working with the architectural firm to address facility needs. Susan included staff on organizational needs. An advisory committee was established to develop visionary planning for the middle school, comprised of 4 teachers, 4 parents, and herself. Members were reluctant to have a committee chair aside from the principal, but concurred. The committee's first goal was to develop a vision statement. The committee chair was reluctant to the committee establishing this and not the principal. Concerns from both parties were shared personally and then within the committee. The principal communicated the process leading up to the development of a vision statement in a way to involve all stakeholders. The committee voted that the principal would establish the philosophy and vision statements, and the committee would then approve the statements and offer suggestions. Breaking down who was involved in the facts of the case, looking from the student's perspective, no students were involved in the decision-making process for establishing a new middle school, hiring a new principal, or developing the building's philosophy, mission, and vision. Students were just not consulted. From the perspective of stakeholders were recently divided while developing a plan to address the inadequate space. Population is ever increasing rapidly and changing the demographics of the community. Longtime residents may no longer be the majority. Only stakeholders directly involved in a committee have been consulted about the developmental process of a philosophy, mission, and vision statement. Stakeholders were not provided the opportunity to become part of the advisory committee. This was a selective process. Stakeholders from diverse populations may not be adequately represented. From the perspective of the teachers, 4 teachers were part of the process of hiring a new principal. 4 teachers, at the recommendations of the board, were placed on the advisory board committee to be part of the development of the school's philosophy, mission, and vision statements. 1 teacher was tasked with chairing that advisory committee. The committee advisory chairperson and PE teacher both spoke in support of the new principal developing these statements, while also stating that they have many opinions and will share when they need to. A minimum of 3 of these teachers voted to have the principal develop these statements. Only 4 teachers were truly consulted in this entire process, and it appears as though they have opinions to share at their leisure, but maybe not in the foundation of a development of a philosophy and vision and mission statement. From the perspective of the principal accepted a position in a place in which she was initially reluctant because of the demographics. It convoluted with the board and the superintendent for the development of a committee, established a committee with the expectations but did not want to take lead of the committee, though she possessed the greatest knowledge and skills to facilitate. She communicated purposes of the committee and her suggestions for the process to follow in efforts to collectively generate a philosophy, mission, and vision. She was outvoted on her own recommendations due to the democratic system she established. She possesses the skills, knowledge, and commitment necessary for successfully establishing core values, mission, and vision statements. She's promoting the establishment of a foundation to ensure the well-being and success of all students and adults involved through collaboratively establishing a vision statement. Concerned for how to move forward while still establishing a strong foundation. She did not utilize data to analyze and develop her plan. She did not utilize technology to communicate with all stakeholders. She did not address equitable representation on the committee. She only took the suggestions of the board and the superintendent. She lacked diverse involvement in this development from all types of stakeholders, students, and teachers. She did not utilize digital citizenship through publicly announcing the opportunities for involvement. From the lens of the superintendent and the board members, they were responsible for hiring the new principal. They recommended teachers and parents for the advisory committee. They did not involve all community members in this recommendation. The demographically changing, they are also closely tied to many stakeholders. The lack of leadership and guidance through not having an established district vision statement has become evident. The lack of professionalism through board members giving recommendations on committees they do not belong also became evident. The lack of knowledge and understanding of the importance of these is also evident by not having them established. To report any legal or ethical issues, considering the harm of an action can be subjective to not only what has happened, but also what will not happen because of a decision. In this case, I think several decisions that dismiss the input of stakeholders could potentially be harmful to the future successes of students, teachers, and stakeholders. Legally speaking, there has been no laws broken. Pending on the Board of Education's procedures and policies, potential privacy has been breached when board members provide advice or direction. Some boards have policies in which they cannot respond to questions individually, as they could be interpreted as a representation of the entire board. Helen's brother offering his input on a committee decision could constitute this. If not contractually breaching an agreement, this could still be a matter of a violation of the Code of Ethics if established by the district. To synthesize exactly what has happened into a single sentence, a newly developed middle school's principal's attempt to engage stakeholders to collectively develop a foundational vision statement was outvoted and she was directed to create the statement independently by the democracy she established that was led by a highly influential teacher in her district. To evaluate the missing facts, as far as people go, students are a big missing piece of this puzzle. There is no mention of students throughout any of this. When we consider stakeholders, there's only a limited number of stakeholders that have been involved in the decision-making process. And also committees are only who were responsible for developing the district's core values is only a small glimpse of them as a whole. To consider the place of what might be missing, the location of these meetings has not been established. Facilitating these meetings in a publicly visible place can generate community and stakeholder buy-in. Also considering what might be missing in regards to the programs, the types of programs that currently exist in the community would be beyond beneficial. This could assist the principal in learning more about the community, as well as community outreach to recognize influential stakeholders that might not be directly involved with the school system. Analyzing the types of programs available can also advise common trends for what is valued in the community. To review and prioritize the information, a vision statement for a new middle school needs to be identified. Current committee members want the principal to be responsible for this development. The principal is new to not only the area, but also a rural setting and does not know the values and principles of the community. The committee members voted against the principal and tasked her with independently developing the vision statement. And what must happen next is the next steps to be established to move forward in developing that vision statement. What I would do if I were in this situation is I would try to first collaboratively lead. I would do so by going out into the community, having conversations with stakeholders, and formally introducing myself. Informally share opportunities that stakeholders might have for involvement in the development of the new school. I would also obtain current data from students, teachers, and parents to better understand the diversity of the district and current core values, as well as establishing a baseline for equity. I would meet with all hired staff on an individual basis to have conversations about their individual visions and what core values have been established already. After analyzing the data, both anecdotal and formal, I would select the most common method of communication to generate interest in committee participation while explaining the process that will be taken to establish core values, missions, and vision statements. Communicate the opportunity via the most common technological platforms as well. Pending the amount of interest, I would comprise an advisory committee consisting of diverse students, parents, teachers, and other stakeholders to talk about actually planning, designing, and implementing how it would be done. I would establish and communicate meeting norms to committee members. I would provide examples of what will happen if norms are not followed and rationale as to why they are necessary. I would engage committee members by asking for their biggest concerns within the current school district and their biggest concerns for the opening of the new middle school. After a diverse or possibly not diverse response has been given, I would utilize this information to demonstrate the need for common core values to be established within the new middle school. I would explain that defining core values and ethics states what we can't assume all people know. I would share the article explaining how this becomes the base for all decisions made and how business is done within our classrooms as well as our building as a whole. Generating a list of shared core values. I would generate a list of shared core values. I would communicate these with stakeholders and have stakeholders prioritize their values through the use of a survey. We would reconvene with the committee. We would discuss common trends and share personal ratings following the norms that have already been established. To continue, we would then establish what core values were the most common. We would then communicate those core values with all students, teachers, and stakeholders in multiple platforms, describing why these have been established and what their purpose is. I would then seek feedback from all stakeholders regarding the process taken to establish these core values and if they felt they were adequately represented within them. I would analyze the feedback and determine if methods used were effective in promoting the success and well-being of all students and adults. Then I would use the core values established to guide the discussions for the formulation of the school's vision statement. I would then repeat the process of engaging members in the importance of a vision statement, educating members on what the purpose of a vision statement is and how they will be used. I will generate ideas within the committee and then share out as previously described. I would follow up with the same procedures as above if they were successful. Why I have the capacity to lead is that when I'm developing a plan to establish core values, mission, and vision statements, I am reminded that leadership serves as a link between the soul and the body of an organization. In order to successfully lead a building, I must work to know who I serve in order to serve them better. Through this process, I can better identify what is really happening within an organization. Recognizing the importance of clearly articulating this will equip me to understand the systematic approach that must be taken to eliminate possible barriers and develop a culture of promoting the success and well-being of all students and adults. I would promote current and future success and well-being of each and every student. My plan will promote their future successes by getting to know them first. Becoming an active part of the community prior to inserting myself in a position of influence will generate the credibility I need to make greater impact. This also ensures that I see the diversity of the population and enable me to make equitable decisions when formulating a committee. Building relationships with staff and enabling their voice promotes their well-being as well as that of the students in which they influence. When I evaluate my plan, there are several pros. There would be involvement will be from a more accurate representation of the diversity within the schools. Stakeholders population through the use of real data. Collaboration ensures consideration has been taken for all persons involved and affected. Evidence of this development should be seen in classrooms. Feedback was sought to evaluate the effectiveness of the process. Expectations are clearly stated prior to opening and determine how to be communicated. In regards to cons, time would be the biggest barrier. It exposes more possible ethical issues district-wide, and also considering the rate in which growth is occurring, it might need to happen more often. To further develop my plan, I would definitely be a lot more specific. I would have a very hard and fast timeline in which these goals need to be made. When I consider how to evaluate the development of my plan, just kind of as I've stated previously within all the other slides, they're all summarized here. And then here I share my standards. This module was phenomenal in meeting all of the standards stated. Relevance, this is incredibly relevant to my current district. In fact, I think it might have been wrote about my district. And then I cannot wait to use this in my own practice in the future. Thanks for listening.